Hello, and welcome to the first and hopefully not the last episode of Straight Guy K Drama Reviews. Since the ECQ started, I watched some K dramas, and I find out that a lot of my friends have a difficult time convincing their brothers, husbands, boyfriends to watch K dramas. So I figured I'll take the bullet for my fellow guys, watch the K dramas, and then let you know if it's worth the watch, at least from my point of view. So as you can see, this is a super high budget show. There's no lights, no makeup. Uh, know anything, but hopefully you guys will run through these 10-point reviews with me and have some fun. So this week I'm going to review The King, Eternal Monarch. So it's available on Netflix. And it finished its run last June 13th, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to run through my 10 points. First, my initial thoughts. I've got my notes here. So initial thoughts, I was worried about watching this show because I'm not a big fan of supernatural stuff. So don't kill me, but I did not enjoy Goblin as much as the next person. Um, the goblins, the Grim Reapers, the vampires, zombies. I'm not a big fan of that. So I was worried that when I heard that the king had magic, I was a little bit worried. The other factor on why I was worried was because of Kim Go Eun. I love Kim Go Eun. It's just that the two K dramas that I watched where she was the star, she was in creepy relationships in both of them, right? Goblin, where she was a 19-year-old in a relationship with a 600-year-old goblin. Sort of creepy, right? And then she's in the trap where her boyfriend was manipulating her. So, I was worried that she's going to be in another creepy relationship, but I think this one was pretty nice most of the time. Okay, so production value. If I'm not mistaken, they spent 30 billion won um, for the production, which is a lot of money. Um, and they used it well. I love the costumes. I love the effects. I think all of the king's robes, coats, were really really nice. They used really fancy cars. Um, the effects, the obelisks, the lightning strikes. It was pretty well made, and I have to commend the camera work. I really, really love the shots that they picked. You know, um, K dramas are always experts when they do those. The two main characters looking longingly at each other, and then there's a beautiful backdrop. But also like the tracking shots. Like my favorite sequence in the series was when the detective squad was following the criminals, trying to catch them, when you could see that the camera was, you know, um, following one cop, right, running down the alley, and then it switches and follows another cop running down another alley, and then it switches again and follows another cop into another alley. I thought that was super cool. I think that you'd expect that in movies, but you wouldn't expect that on TV shows. So I really appreciated that. Um, Okay, plot wise, okay, so the basic plot, without spoiling anything, is that there are parallel universes. So in one universe, Korea is a republic, just like what we know. And then in the other world, Korea is a kingdom. So there's a monarchy, and then there's a parliament that runs the political side of things. Um, and then there's a magic flute, and the flute, basically, don't ask me to pronounce the name of the flute because it's so difficult, but the power of the flute gives its bearer the ability to open doors in the universe and travel through the parallel worlds. So the basic story is it's a struggle for who controls that magic flute. It's either the king himself or the evil uncle, right? His dad's brother, also a prince. So they're fighting over the magic flute. And of course, the safety of the universe, right? That's all I'm going to say. Um, I really enjoyed the plot because it reminded me a lot of Fringe. So if you're familiar with the American show Fringe or even Star Trek Discovery, I really like that concept of parallel universes, right? It's not identical. There's a lot of similar things, but it's not identical. So if you actually take note of your surroundings, you'll discover that you're in a different world. I really enjoyed that. And then there's elements of time travel. So there's a little bit of Back to the Future vibes in there as well. So I like that. I thought that, story wise, they avoided a lot of common K drama uh, tropes. I guess that's the right word. Like, you know how most K dramas, the main characters are always like, oh, they find it difficult to share their feelings, and then it takes like 12 episodes before they admit their love for each other. Here, the love story is like front and center. Um, they declare their love for each other very early. Um, so there's none of that, fake anger because they can't talk about their feelings and all of that. Um, and ending wise, I thought it was a really nice ending. Like it's not the usual ending, but it's not an open-ended ending that will make you think, right? It's a solid ending. I won't say if it's happy or it's sad because I don't want to spoil anything, but I thought that it was note perfect. Like it's the right ending for this kind of show. All right, let's talk about the stars. So I'm not as experienced as other people in K drama, so this is actually my first time watching Lee Min Ho, which is crazy because he apparently is like this super big star, right? I thought as the king, he was really perfect because he has this royal aura about him. Plus, he's tall, um, and he commands a lot of that respect as a king. And I thought it was really funny. Um, and he's most funny when he's actually not joking, but like taken aback because these are things that don't happen to him as a king, right? So when he travels to the other universe and the people treat him like a normal person, he's really surprised. I thought that was really funny. Um, and he has really good chemistry with not only his love interest but also his bodyguard. So there's a good chemistry, a good bones for a buddy comedy, right? Let's move on to my favorite character, Kim Go Eun's character, who portrays Lieutenant Jung Tae-yeol. So Kim Go Eun's like one of my favorite actresses. I love, love, love her. Like she's super cute, but she's also super smart. And in this role, I thought she was very strong. Most of the time when I see K dramas where the women are good fighters in the beginning, like somehow the writers forget that she's such a good fighter that by the end of the series, she's weaker or like less of a fighter. So this time she was strong all throughout, which I really appreciated. Um, she's also a good detective, right? She's not like a detective that is lucky or stumbles upon clues. Like she was really smart. um, she could pick up clues by herself. She could catch criminals by herself. I really appreciated that the character was really strong, um, and not typical of a K drama. Okay, let's talk about the villains. So there's two villains, and I can reveal the villains because it's not really a spoiler because it's pretty obvious early on who the villains are. So the prince is Lee Jung Jin. I thought he looked evil. Like it was obvious he was evil from the very beginning, and he did a good job of looking evil, right? Talking evil. My only problem is he's very one-dimensional. Like he wants the flute, he wants everyone to die, and that's pretty much the story. So I thought that he could have used a little bit more depth. But I guess they needed a straight-laced bad guy because the other bad guy was the prime minister, the beautiful prime minister, played by Jung Yun Che. Um, I really like that prime minister as a bad guy because it's very layered. Like her evilness actually comes from her ambition, right? So you could sense that she's not or she didn't start out as a bad person. She started out as a very ambitious person, but that ambition sort of ate away at her morality. So it's an interesting way to look at how ambition, when unchecked, could actually turn you evil, right? Even if you have good intentions. Okay, MVP of the series I thought was Do Hwan, who portrays a dual role. I mean, there are a lot of actors here that plays dual roles because of the parallel universe story, but Do Hwan actually played the most of both of his characters. So on one universe, he's the unbreakable sword, he's the main bodyguard, plus the childhood best friend of the king. And then in the other universe, he's like this normal guy, a few months away from finishing military service. He's not a good fighter. He shies away from fights. He's not even courageous enough to talk to the girl he likes. So I thought that he was able to portray opposites, direct opposites, really well, especially when they were talking to each other. I thought he was really great there. And I thought it was a genius piece of writing that, as dissimilar as they are, one common thread ties them together, even if they're on opposite universes, which is that sense of duty. Like whether he's strong or he's weak, when duty calls, they answer. So I thought that was really good because, in my mind, parallel universes, people may be different, but something ties them together. That's at least that's my belief. And then King Kyum Nam plays the other cop, Kang Shin Jae. So he has a very interesting story, which I can't talk about without spoiling anything. But I just want to say that this guy was, I saw him first in a K drama called Where Stars Land, and he portrays an airport security guy that's super straight laced, super dedicated to the job, has problems talking about his feelings, and has problems telling the woman he loves his feelings, right? And in this show, he's exactly the same guy. He's a super straight laced detective, dedicated to his job, and has a problem talking about his feelings and telling the woman he loves his feelings. So I hope he doesn't get typecasted, but he does play this role really well. He has a good cop face. All right. Now let's talk about food and fun. So most K dramas have really good food featured in them. And of course, I want to talk about food. So this is always going to be on the show. Here, I think the most delicious food they featured was the steak rice hot pot. Now, I think the procedure is basically you cook the rice separately, you cook the steak separately. But when you put it together, the steak was nicely sliced, cooked medium rare. Um, there's what looks like a raw egg yolk. So I can imagine if that's like a super hot, short grain, sticky rice, and then there's egg yolk there, and then steak, and you mix it together. I can imagine how delicious that is. And I want to come up with my hack version of that really soon. Sponsors wise, they spent a lot of time eating fried chicken. I thought it was funny that there was no fried chicken with sauce in one of the universes, right? So when the king tastes it for the first time, he's like, "This is amazing. Why don't we have this?" I thought that was funny. Um, I think the chicken was sponsored by BBQ Chicken, which is the same chicken you will see in Crash Landing on You. So this is probably a big brand. And the other big sponsor was the Alley, so they kept getting milk tea, which made me crave for brown sugar milk. If anybody's delivering in Green Hills, please let me know. Okay, and my favorite food reference in the show was actually budaejjigae, and I'm really sad that because they had the bones of a really good uh, running gag with the budaejjigae. So it starts where when the king discovers that there is such a thing as budaejjigae, which makes sense because in the monarchy they never had the Korean War. So without the Korean War, they wouldn't have created the budaejjigae. So when he travels to the other universe, he's so excited he actually calls the detective and says, "Do you know that there is a dish called budaejjigae?" And then a couple of episodes later, he tries to eat in this place that serves really good budaejjigae, but he gets into a fight, so they never end up in the place. And so he tries again another episode later, and this time they can't get the budaejjigae because the owner turns out to be someone they're looking for, and so again he doesn't get to eat, right? So I was hoping that they'd make this a regular joke, and then have him finally taste budaejjigae in episode 15 or 16, right? Unfortunately, they didn't do that. I thought it was a missed opportunity. And one last fun fact, I hope you noticed this when you watch the show, or if you've already seen the show, I hope you saw it. On the back of the phone of Jung Tae-yeol, Kim Go-eun's character, there's a sticker on her phone case that says "Back to the Future." I don't know if that's an Easter egg, if it's on purpose, but if it was on purpose, that's genius, right? Because the story has elements of Back to the Future, and so it's really fun to see that on the back of the phone. Okay, so let's go verdict. Verdict for straight guys. Okay, I think that if you've never seen a K drama before, this might be a good start. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of science fiction, and there's a lot of math. So a lot of the nerdy guys would really love this. Math comes into play everywhere, like from stopping the bad guys to figuring out um, the effects of traveling through parallel universes. Um, this is math is everywhere. There's science everywhere. There's science fiction everywhere. There's violence. So there's buddy comedy. So I think that the guys would really love this. And the plus factor is the romance here is not as cheesy as the other K dramas. So if you're trying to get your feet wet, I think this is the show for you. This is the show where you can actually watch and not feel like you're just struggling through layers and layers of cheesiness, right? So, out of 10 possible Korean hearts, I'm going to give this show 9. Okay, I won't give it a perfect score just because I thought that number one, I thought the final episode could have been one scene or two scenes shorter. Um, and the other is I thought that they jumped universes so often that sometimes people might get confused because they don't always label which world they're showing at the current moment. So if you're gonna try to watch this show, I think it will be less confusing if you watch 2 episodes at a time or 3 episodes at a time, so you can really follow the story and not get confused. Um, that's probably the only thing, so that's why I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Okay, that's it, guys. This is the first episode of Straight Guy K Drama Reviews. If you enjoy this, I'll probably make another one. So write down on the comment section which K drama you want me to review. And then if I've seen it, I'll try to review it and make a video. Meanwhile, I'd like you guys to subscribe to my channel. I have food videos, cooking videos, and interviews with celebrities as well. So make sure to subscribe and don't forget to like this video. All right, see you guys.